I believe, with their ages somewhere around that. So, yeah, and I'm with you, Tony. I think it could happen too. Tony Holman in the chat. Wick's breakout year. Bro, his rookie year, I remember talking about this. After his rookie year, it was like, this dude is going to be the number one receiver. Like, he had that good of a year. And then, of course, you take a step back. Sophomore slump, we always talk about it. I'm excited to see what they do, man. It's going to be awesome.
For sure. Wicks is probably our slipperiest receiver, right? I mean, him and Reed probably when it comes to just smoothness and crisp route running. I'm ready, man. That would be a pleasant surprise, right? If Tay Wicks just broke out, you know, especially with Christian Watson being out, missing significant time. If 13 steps up, man, that could be a game changer for our offense.
Yeah, definitely. Coach Lance says Goop believes the same thing, Clayton. You can tell by the moves he made in free agency. It does kind of feel like that. It does. Yep. Chris N says, didn't Reed struggle against man coverage? He was worse against man coverage than zone, but he's always been a zone beater. That's kind of been his thing. Think of someone that runs good routes like Dontavion Wicks, who will be put out in the boundary X. Romeo Dobbs, who's put out in the X position a lot. They're the ones you want to win in man coverage. With Reed's role in this offense, run a lot of slot cross, a lot of dagger, which is basically, you know, slot fade. And you kind of couple all that stuff together, a defense can take those routes away. What I'm thinking we're going to see this year, and I hope we do, if you want to beat man coverage, and I guarantee you Matt LaFleur is going, we've got to beat man coverage this year. Defenses know that was our weakness, and they're going to attack us with it. You're going to see a lot of double moves this year. And that's something you don't see a lot in Matt LaFleur's offenses. What I mean by double moves is like where you would normally run a post, you'll run a post corner. Think to the Dallas game a couple years ago, the playoff game. You remember the cross-country routes and the post corner routes that Romeo Dobbs ran. Why did we run those? Because we knew Dallas played more man coverage than just about anybody in the league. Okay, so now as we go in, if we get into week 2 or 3 and teams are playing a ton of man coverage because that's what we struggled with last year, look for those routes to reemerge. That along with leaks as well. You'll get a lot more leaks. Last year we didn't have near as many leaks as we did in 2023. And what I mean by a leak is a tight end or a running back chipping and then delaying out. You know, it looks like you're staying in the block. So a defender will see him blocking, put their eyes on another target, and the next thing you know, that guy's leaking out underneath. So, and I think that's something that Kraft can excel with, especially with his yak ability.
Yep.
But since we're talking receiver, let's jump into one here. I think you boys have brung him up earlier today, so I did a quick breakdown of Mr. Matthew Golden, another receiver that might potentially be there when the Packers pick in the first round. You want to hit that chat real quick before we get into it, Jacob?
Yeah, if you're talking about Chambo from Idaho, he says, gentlemen, how would you feel about drafting a great tight end and linebacker in the second and third rounds? Make those two rooms the best in the league. You know, when he puts it that way, that's kind of a good argument. I mean, there really are. If you were to strike apparently on both of those, you'd have to obviously caveat with that. But when you say tight end, I'm assuming you'd probably go something. I don't think Colson Loveland would be around in the second. So I guess you'd have to ask yourself, who are you going to pick there? And the linebacker, I think you could argue there'd probably be some good ones in the third round, but I wouldn't want to go in specifically saying we're doing this group in this round. I feel like that's kind of limiting yourself. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I think with tight end especially, there's good value, you know, beyond the early rounds. Linebacker, you'd probably maybe take a swing second or third round. I could see that. But then again, I look at my boy, Harold Fannin Jr. You know, you're talking about tight ends. That's a guy.
Oronde Gadsden, sure.
Yeah, Oronde Gadsden, that's another one, you know, second, third round potential. Gadsden might be a little bit more of a reach, but Harold Fannin Jr. in the second or third round would not make me upset at all.
That would be cool.
I agree with the logic, too, of like loading up. We're probably one player away at each of those groups of really having a, you know, like you said, a dominant room at the position. So, you know, we'll see. But none of it means a damn thing if we don't get better on that D line. You know, I'm still a big proponent of we need a 3-tech and we need one early. So we'll see.
So the Packers have already met with Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan, right? He's on the 12 spot on our big board. You kind of feel like if you're going to take a shot at him, it's going to have to be at 23. But if somehow, some way he falls to the second round, that's a no-brainer, obviously, according to our board. The next tight end on our board. And again, Ty Warren is the top tight end. He's going to be out of reach, I believe, personally. Next is Mason Taylor on our board out of LSU in the 48 spot. Then the next tight end, I search along here, is Elijah Arroyo, who fits the athletic profile pretty well for the Packers. He's in the 65 spot. And then right behind him in the 66 spot is Harold Fanning Jr. out of Bowling Green, which Green Bay has already met with as well. So that might be the one, Tim. That might be the one.
I feel like he's maybe the second best tight end in the draft, second or third best. So I think it's awesome that the Packers have him on their radar.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to say he may have struggled with the RAS. Let me look at that real quick just to make sure I don't want to misspeak. I've got it.
Coach Lynn asks the question, does that mean that we're giving up on Musgrave then? I don't know if giving up on him is the right word, but I think that would make it one of the reasons why it's the best tight end room in the league, because you got Tuck Norris, another up-and-coming prospect in Fanning, and then between him and Musgrave, it's like which one of them is going to show what they got. I think Musgrave is a much physical, more specimen than Fanning, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah,
I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, a little competition is good. You know, maybe we're not giving up on Musgrave, but hey, the seat is hot. You know, it's your job to lose basically, or at least to prove that you still deserve it, and bringing in some young talent at the position. It can't hurt. Fanning is 6'4", 230 according to PFF. I don't know what Musgrave's numbers are.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, man. I don't see it as we're giving up on him. I see it as, hey, bub, let's go, let's get to work. Best man wins, you know.
Yep.
And we know tight ends get banged up, so that sounded bad. We know that a tight end is going to get hurt throughout the season, right?
That doesn't help much either.
It's going to happen. Shut up, Jacob. See, this is the problem. All right, let's move along to Matthew Golden here.
Don't worry, guys. Hey, Daryl, don't worry. They're not drafting another tight end. No, so
okay. Well, you don't have to.
That was a stupid segment.
All right, that's the end of the show, guys.
Sorry, Daryl.
There's no reason to even talk about it. So y'all have a wonderful evening. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Oh, God. Okay, Matthew Golden. Before we dive into it, I can't tell if Chuck's being funny or not. Right? Nothing wrong with having more good tight ends.
That's right.
So that's right. With that name underneath your picture, it's unbelievable. Before I dive into the Matthew Golden stuff, what's your all's take on Matthew Golden? I want to get a take beforehand, and then let's kind of reevaluate at the end to see, hey, is this a guy that we might potentially look at taking in 23?
Jacob.
Man, Tim sounded depressed just now.
I've been going back and forth on Golden. I think I said that earlier, maybe even this morning, but I just am not super impressed with the overall production and the stats. I think he is one of those guys that severely helped himself with the combine. You talked about how a lot of time it doesn't move the needle for a lot of guys, but for like 10% of them, it drastically moves the needle. I think him running that really fast 40 catapulted him above certain receivers that had he not ran that time, I don't think they'd be talking the same.
Got it. Tim, you got anything to add before we jump in?
I was on mute. My bad. I'm kind of the same boat as Jacob. I'm not like low on the guy, but I'm not super high on him. I can think of a handful of guys I'd probably rather take in the first round with that pick if we're going receiver early. But I'm also not going to be upset if Matthew Golden becomes a Packer. I think he fits the mold, the measurables, and a lot of the things that we look for in a wideout. So not my first or maybe second choice even, but definitely at the top tier batch of receivers though. So nobody to be upset with an early pick.
I'd be happier if they were to even take a guy like Trey Harris above Golden at 23, just because I don't see the Trey Harris. You could argue is that big body with the fast, that's a possession receiver. He's graded unbelievably well. I don't see any of that from Golden. He's 6'1", has no production. I mean, he has decent production, but really no decent grades and a little bit of a drop issue. I don't get it.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, we've got Matthew Golden in the 36th spot, and we got Trey Harris in the 51st spot. Of course, Trey Harris has got that size, right? Matthew Golden, he meets the threshold for the most part. Ron Sample says Musgrave is 6'6", 254. Jacob, I think you asked that. So that's a big old boy right there. So here it is. Let's get into the breakdown here by Buckets Goldenberg.
Buckets Goldenberg.
The Green Bay Packers under GM Brian Gutekunst target athletic wide receivers with a relative athletic score of 8 or higher. With the 2025 NFL Draft approaching, Matthew Golden's standout combine performance has scouts buzzing. Does he fit Green Bay's mold? Let's break it down. So, quick refresher. In terms of Gutekunst's threshold, you're looking for it's somewhat flexible at height, but you're looking at 5'11" is kind of that range, starting point, if you will. Weight 187 to 208, 40-yard dash, a sub 4.6. We talked about it earlier. They really like to lean on sub 4.5, but sub 4.6 to get it done. 10-yard split of 1.60, 20-yard split of 2.6. You got a vertical jump of 35 inches or better. Some places say 36 is the mark. Others say 35. Arm length, 31 to 32 inches is typical. Hand size, 9 to 10 inches. And wingspan of 76 to 80 inches is pretty common. So how does Matthew Golden stack up? He's 5'11", check it. 191, check it. 4'9", 40, check it. 10-yard split, 20-yard split. Vertical jump is the only thing that doesn't check the box because it was not reported. However, it says it was assumed at 35 inches. People think he could jump about a 35-inch vertical, which would clear the mark, obviously. Arm length, 30 and 5/8 inches. Hand size, 9.5 inches. So the arm length is a little bit off, right? A little bit less. I think that's one of the things that doesn't matter as much as a receiver, in my opinion. You want the catch radius, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we ever look at a receiver and go, how long's his arms? Yep, we ain't drafting him. And again, the hand size looked like it's right there in the sweet spot. Wingspan, 76 and 3/8.
How about these hands?
Clears the mark by 3/8 of an inch. It says Golden's 4.2940, the fastest of the 2025 combine, pairs with a 1.53 10-yard split, making him as a speed standout. Vertical broad jump and agility data are unreported, but his profile suggests he's explosive. So speed in electric, with the speed, he's elite in electric. Explosiveness, likely a lock. Agility, the unknown. Size, right in that range. Alignment, mostly wide. You wouldn't believe how many people, when I put this up on Twitter, they was like, he's a slot receiver. Golden played 902 snaps out wide and only 226 in the slot in his entire college career. So he is a wide receiver. He's not a slot receiver. Now, if you want to make the argument he's going to project as a slot, I got you. But let's don't just make stuff up as we go along. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's a 4-to-1 ratio there. He's a perimeter threat with slot flexibility aligning with Green Bay's versatile usage. Imagine him and Jayden Reed on the field together. 1 second he's in the F, next second Jaden's in the F. They can both play Z. You got Dobby and Wicks who can play X. Put them out on the other side. If you go with a Harold Fannin Jr. like y'all talked about, imagine him at the boundary X, just flexing him out wide. This is the thing that got me too, though, showing up in big games. Matthew Golden's best performance in 2024 college football season, based on available data, appears to have been in the SEC championship game against Georgia. In that game, which took place on December 7th, 2024, Golden recorded 8 receptions for 162 yards, averaging 20.3 yards per catch. Although he did not score a touchdown in the game, his yardage total stands as his highest single game output of the season, showcasing his ability to make significant plays against a strong opponent. Texas ultimately lost to Georgia in this matchup, but Golden's performance was a highlight. So the verdict is Golden's speed and burst are elite. His size works, and his unreported metrics likely meet the Packers' 35-inch vert and RAS of 8+ standards. He could be a fit at pick 23, fast, versatile, and primed to spark the offense alongside Watson and Reed. Full combine results could seal the deal. So after that, has your opinion changed on him at all with all that information? We can scroll up or down, anything y'all want to see. The thing that got me was also the SEC championship game. It's like, that's a good sign when someone steps up that big in a big time game like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I definitely, it sways a little bit for sure. And I think it was a little unfair saying he's had no production this last year. He played 16 games. He, like you said, played over 100 spots in the slot, but predominantly almost 400 out wide. He almost cracked 1,000 yards, had 987. He had 17 yards per reception. That's pretty darn good. And he had 9 tuds. So this last year, he definitely put it together. And I'm sure they're talking stat-wise that Georgia was his best game. But the week after that, I think that's the Sun Devils, he had an 88.9 game, which was by far his best game of the season, graded out elite, and then had a really great game against Ohio State as the last game as well. So played good in big games. That's cool.
Yep. Tim, any other thoughts here, sir?
Just under 1,000 yards last year. I think you're right, Jacob. I mean, just looking back to 2022, obviously he was hurt in 23, missed some games. Looks like he's starting to put it all together. So I think there's a legit argument for him to be in that conversation. I don't think it sways me off my opinion that there's a few that I like a little better. But again, this is not a guy you're going to be upset, joining your football team. And I think, maybe the 5'11" listing rather than the 6 foot. I've seen him listed at 6 foot on a couple of different sites.
Mhm.
Maybe he gets, assigned that he's a slot guy just because he's, sub 6 foot and under 200 pounds. I think a lot of guys get kind of typecast into that role. And, we've had that conversation with Jayden Reed, oh, he's a slot guy. No, he's not. He can play anywhere on the field. So I think a lot of times guys get lumped into that category based on their measurables. And, I think you look at his measurables combined with what we just went over statistically, like clearly he's a good draft pick. I would assume that, he's probably not going to survive the first round. And if he does, it'd be very early in the second that he'd be off the board.
Got it. J. Cole says there are people who believe Golden is better than McMillan. I want to say, and I don't want to misquote him, I think Jake said earlier this offseason, Jake Shavink, and you guys know he dives into the draft as much as anyone. He said Matthew Golden was wide receiver 1. I remember him saying that at one time.
I think he
And
did.
it was
Yeah.
like, whoa. Yeah, so that I don't think that's too far off. Prince says Reed and Golden outside with Hardman or Melton in the slot, all 4.3 40 guys. Think about that. That would be wild.
That'd be crazy.
Kill him with speed, man. And then you get a little Z motion, not just F, but Z. And you could do a lot of different things. Tucker Kraft on an end around while those guys are stretching the field vertically, and then you come back, fake it to Tucker, and once you get to stretching the field vertically with that kind of speed too, think of all of the tight end screens we ran with Tucker last year. Talking about opening that up as well.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we do have a guy by the name of Josh Jacobs too. I don't know if y'all remember that. So I'm excited about this offense, man. I really am. Prince says, I don't want a receiver in round 1, but Golden being there would be tempting. See, that's exactly how I feel. If I'm picking and there are players on our board higher than Matthew Golden, I'm going probably with a 3 tech. I'm probably going with an edge. I might go with a corner. Those are the 3 positions, right? But if they take Matthew Golden at 23, I'm going to be going, let's go. Let's go. That's going to be the dude. So easily swayed in that regard for sure. So, all right, let's move it along here. I thought it'd be cool if we took a quick glance at the updated consensus big board. You guys remember we hit that all off season, right? We haven't looked at it in a long, long time. So why don't we pop it up on the screen and let's just take a look at the consensus big board